Hey, what is going on, everybody? James here with Heavyweight Politics. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a kind of person who travels quite a lot, right? So my old job and even the job I have currently requires me to travel very, very often. So I have been, flown all over this country. I've been to Alaska, to Florida, to Wyoming, to Tennessee, to California, to Vegas multiple times. Really love the trip to Vegas. And so I have kind of had a chance to fly on every airline you can imagine. Because of it, I get updates from every airline that's going on. So one of my friends who also travels quite a bit actually sent me this story from the New York Post. And I'm just going to pull it up right here. Non-binary Alaska Airline employees say uniform policy is discriminatory. Because that's what we're going to be fighting now, right? The constant push, especially right now with it being Pride Month. We're going to be talking about the non-binary community and how apparently asking people to wear a uniform is now considered discriminatory. So right here, a non-binary Alaska Airlines flight attendant is alleging the company's uniform policy discriminates against workers who, quote, who do not conform to gender stereotypes, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. So again, they're trying to use gender and say, well, gender isn't attached to sex, right? Of course, people can change their gender even if sexual biology does exist. Now, what I'm interested to see is, does Alaska Airlines base their uniform policy on male-female or man and woman, right? Now, I know the difference makes no sense at the end of the day, right? That they're really, gender and sex are connected. There is no denying that. There just isn't. They are connected. But by playing by their rules, as long as you put male or female, you should be fine, right? Because you're describing sex, not gender. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they did here. I wonder if they mentioned in this article, because I haven't actually gone through it entirely myself. I've only gone through the first little bit here. So when I'm working as a flight attendant instructor and allowed to wear regular business attire, I am not forced into Alaska Airlines male or female uniform policies, neither of which fit me because I am non-binary. Seattle-based Justin Wetherell said in an ACLU news release. Of course, that person would be from Seattle, of all places, right? But when I work as a flight attendant, I'm forced into one of two standards, often for up to 4 days at a time. I am willing to follow all the elements of the uniform policy and for professional attire as I do when I work as an instructor, but I don't want to be forced into a binary uniform that excludes me and leads to me being misgendered at work, the 7-year employee added. So yes, if you're depending on if you're in front of course, clients or not, and you could consider a person, flying on a plane as a client, you have a different dress uniform, right? I have worked multiple jobs where, guess what? When it comes to me coming into the office in a corporate environment, I can actually wear what I'm wearing right now, and I'll be A-okay. I can wear this and some shorts, and no one really cares, right? But if I'm in front of a bunch of clients, guess what? I'm wearing a dress shirt. I'm wearing, either some slacks or some khakis, some nice, pants, belt, shoes, dress shirt, whole 9 yards, right? Because I'm in front of clients, or in this case, in front of, people who are actually flying on your airlines. So yes, you're going to have a different uniform. No duh. This shouldn't be a surprise. And here's the thing. They say they've been doing this, they're a 7-year employee, which means they've known about this for 7 years and only just now are making a big fuss about this, right? For 7 years, they've gone through this without any problem, but now they have to make a fuss about it because they know the winds are a-turning, apparently. The ACLU wrote the letter on behalf of Wetherell, I'm guessing that's how you say it, whose gender identity not strictly male or female. Well, that's strange, because male or female isn't gender. That's sex. So it is strictly male or female. I don't care who you are. Your sex is male or female. Even if you're someone who's like intersex, which is extraordinarily rare. Guess what? You got chromosomes. We can tell. You have a sex, male or female is a sex. He is strictly one. I'm not even sure if, he or she, I'm not sure what, they are in a way, but they are at least male or female. We know that for a fact. There is no way they can't be. And whose gender expression is fluid. Again, gender expression is fluid. Male or female, not genders, they're sexes. Get over yourself. It argues that the company's uniform policy violates Washington law against discrimination via Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 because it's discriminatory to require a dress code. I'm going to use that for my next argument when they tell me to wear a suit. The uniform policy has one set of male dress grooming requirements and another set of female dress and grooming requirements. So again, male, female. Not man, woman, male, female. That's sex, not gender, which means it doesn't matter what you think you are one of the two sexes. We don't have a scientific way of changing you yet. Again, I say yet because who knows what might happen in the future, right? In the future, we might have some way of actually changing that sort of stuff. Right now, guess what? We don't. You are a male or you are a female, period. If you deny the biological reality of that, I'm sorry, you're kind of a loon, all right? There is a biological reality to nature. You have to, you can't just throw that out because you feel like you want to identify as something else. You can say you're a woman. You can say you're a man. Male, female? No, you can't do that. So if their requirements are male and female, there is no reason why there should be any issue here. Each uniform is made up of several pieces of clothing that flight attendants can choose from, but flight attendants cannot mix and match male uniforms and a piece of female uniform pieces. They can't mix and match male uniform pieces and female uniform pieces. Now that could make for some funny conversions there. That could actually be somewhat funny. Wetherell filed a discrimination complaint against the Washington State Human Rights Commission, according to Bloomberg News, because that is a human right, apparently. Your dress code is a human right. What isn't a human right these days? That's what I'm more interested in. Right now, we're told everything apparently is a human right. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Here's the deal. Human rights are what you have in the absence of government, right? If you're stranded in the middle of the woods, what do you have the ability to do? You have the ability to speak freely. That's a human right. You have the ability to worship however you want to see fit. Human right. You have the ability to protect yourself against those who threaten to do you harm. Human right. You have the right to not be just seized out of nowhere without due cause. All right, these are human rights. Wearing clothes of your sex when you willingly signed a document saying I will go work for you, that is not a human right. You can argue that it is a privilege, it is a, some type of entitlement. You can argue whatever you want to argue about it, but it's not a human right. We use rights so loosely now. Everything's a right. You have a right to this, you have a right to that. You don't have a right to jack for the most part. The only thing you really have a right to do is not be bothered when you're on your own doing your own thing. And guess what? If you go to someone else's place of business and say, I want to work for you, now you don't have the right to just do whatever the hell you want to do. You have to follow their rules. And their rules is male and female. Not very complicated here. Under federal law, workers must generally file bias charges with the administrative agency before they can sue, according to a news outlet. The U.S. Supreme Court decided last year that Title VII prohibits workplace discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender status, but does not specifically address dress code and other LGBT-related matters, according to Bloomberg. Policies such as the Alaska Airlines uniform policy, under which a woman faces discipline or disadvantage for dressing in a manner that would be permitted if she were a man, or a man facing discipline or can't say those together apparently. Disadvantage for dressing in a manner that would be permitted if he were a woman, discriminate, but for the employee's sex within the meaning of Title VII. So again, sex, gender, not the same thing. In a statement of the website, Alaska Airlines wrote that it has been a long-time supporter of the LGBTQ plus community, Well, at least added a little bit extra on the end there. We have been a leader in the industry when it comes to inclusion in our uniform and grooming standards. We have been informed by our employees and developed in accordance with federal and state laws, the airline said. Over the past year, we have introduced several new guidelines designed to give our flight attendants more inclusive uniform options. Since 2020, all flight attendants have been able to order any pant or parka style and have been able to select the uniform kit of their choice regardless of their gender identity. So apparently they're claiming that that apparently you can order whatever one you want to. The company also said later this month that will allow workers to order the uniforms online, which will help greater ease of choice uniform, So here's the thing. Right now, more and more people are starting to try to sue on these crazy merits, right? Saying that something as simple as uniform policies is now discriminatory. It isn't. You're not forced to go work for Alaska Airlines. You're not forced to go work for Walmart. You're not forced to work for Target. You work there because you have willingly gone to them and said, hey, what do you need? I will provide. And if they say, well, I need someone to wear this particular uniform and do this particular job, and you say, yes, right on it, sign, your name on the dotted line, you can't be upset when they ask you to do what it is you just said you would do. All right, if you don't do it wrong. More employees should stand up for themselves in many other ways. And if you don't like the dress uniform, that's actually, if you want to bring this up to Alaska Airlines, I kind of get that. Saying, I want X, Y, and Z. Sure. But to bring a lawsuit over it, to say that you are violating my human rights because you won't let me dress in the way I want to dress, is absolute idiocy. It makes no sense whatsoever and sets a terrible standard going forward where we're now saying everything is a human right when it's not. Human rights are very limited, very, very, very limited to just things, again, that are basically yours in absence of government. All right, anything that forces someone else to do something for you is not a human right, period. All right, the only thing you can argue that's a human right is something, again, where you are by yourself and you don't want said right to be violated, right? So if I want to speak freely, no one can stop me from doing that. If I want to say whatever I want, no one should be allowed to stop me from doing it. No matter how ridiculous or abhorrent that, of the words I want to say, it does not matter. My speech is my own. You have no right to force me in any shape or form to stop. If I'm working for them and I'm on the clock, guess what? I have willingly signed my name saying I will follow your, what you want me to do for this time period, and, as long as you give me X amount of dollars. When I'm on the clock for them, I no longer can speak just however I want to. I can't be walking, the aisles of the airplane, dropping, the F-bomb left and right. Yeah, obviously you cannot do that. Same goes for dress code. I can wear whatever I want in private. If I want to walk around my house shirtless, I can do that. Now, my wife might be a little bit confused, but I can do that if I want to. I cannot do it when I'm at work. These are very simple things, yet now we're trying to find different ways we can sue one another because we want to force our positions down as hard as possible. Might makes right, according to these people. It always has been that way with a lot of these leftists. They always think that might makes right. If I have the power to implement my will, there is no way you should be able to stop me. They believe in things like pure democracy, which I think any of us who understand any bit of history knows is completely destructive in all of its forms. They believe that as long as they have the majority, they have a right to oppress the rights of others. They do not care. Again, might makes right, and it goes with this as well. They've been with the company for 7 years. 7 years they've known the policy, and only just now did they decide, hey, why don't we go try to sue? Why? Because the winds are turning, and they think they can get probably a sympathy, some type of sympathy from the rest of the world. And even if this lawsuit doesn't even work, they can probably put up a GoFundMe and fundraise tons of money by saying, well, I was kicked out of my job because they discriminated against me. No, they didn't. You left your job because you didn't like the conditions they provided. Now, that is a fair thing to do. I have done that myself, not for this reason, obviously, but because I didn't like the way a certain company was handling, everything of mine. So I decided, hey, I'm going to leave and do my own thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with trying to use the hands of the government to force a private company to say, hey, I must be allowed to dress in a certain way. It's absolutely ridiculous. Either way, hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like below and please subscribe to the channel. Try to put out some daily videos the best I can. Obviously with work, sometimes I miss a day or two, but trying to keep a Monday to Friday pretty consistently. So if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Really do appreciate it. Please, again, leave a like. It really does help, and I'll be seeing you again real soon.